Alright guys, so today we're working on this 2004 Dodge Ram. It's got an oil leak underneath here that I am trying to fix. You'll see that the oil is caked all over the place. I'm not exactly sure. I think it might be the front main bearing or the front main seal, but I'm not sure. It's basically coated the oil pan and the transmission, splattered all the way back. So yeah, the diff is all covered in oil, nasty. So I am dismantling the front end here to get better access to the front of this thing. As you can see here, everything is crammed in super tight, so the best way to get at it is to open up the front of this thing. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run this on fast forward. Let's get started. Alright guys, today I'm back on this Dodge again, trying to fix an oil leak on it. Got the front timing cover here. It was leaking a little bit around the crankshaft, and the cover on the back side, the gear cover, the gasket behind that's also leaking, and it's getting worse, so it's time to fix it. I started the teardown on this about, let's say 3 weeks ago, and the weather, I don't have a covered space to work on it, so it's been raining and snowing and stuff here. So yeah, this is the next section. I gotta take the valve cover off. I've got to lift the lifters up so I can pull the camshaft out, so I can get the gear cover off, so I can replace the gasket behind it and then put it all back together. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass. I'm going to do a close-up here and show you what we'll be doing today. So here's the front of the crankshaft. Here is the timing cover. Here is the gear housing. The fuel pump sits in here. The camshaft sits right behind here. And in order to get this cover off, you have to pull the camshaft out, which means I may have to cut this and take it out because it won't slide side to side. I can't get it out. But since I don't actually have to pull the camshaft all the way out, I'm hoping that just pulling it out enough to access the bolts that are holding the actual housing, I'm hoping I can pull the camshaft out enough to access that. So what I need to do is pull the valve cover off and pull all of the rocker arms out. It's kind of light, it's not that great in here. Here we go. I need to pull the rocker arms off so I have access to the lifters that sit down on the camshaft, and then I need to lift all of the lifters up so I can pull the camshaft out. So the oil leak that I was getting, here's the timing cover. Here is the housing. I need to pull this housing off because the gasket that sits between this and the block is leaking down on the bottom behind here. And it's ending up with the oil run that comes out and all along the front of the pan here, and then it just blows back all over everything. I've pressure washed this, but it's still dirty all the way back, and I'm just getting tired of it, so it's time to fix it. Okay, so I've got the front end of this taken apart. I got the cover off here. This is the gear housing, and the gasket that sits back here is the one that's leaking. So I need to pull this camshaft out. I need to take this nut off. I need to unscrew. There's nuts on the back that hold the pump in here. There's 3 of them here that I need to get on the back side and disconnect the injection pump so that I can pull this housing forward and replace the gasket behind it. I need to pull the camshaft. I'm hoping I don't have to pull it all the way out because it'll be a bit of a pain, but maybe, we'll see. I will have to take and rotate the crankshaft clockwise a little bit to turn this gear this direction so I can access these bolts, and that's what keeps the camshaft in place this direction. I also need to figure out how I'm going to hold all the lifters up so I can pull the camshaft out and then put it back in without having all the lifters drop down inside the engine and make it so I have to pull the engine. I know that in some of the other tutorials I've seen, or ways that other people have done it, is to use dowels that are like 12¼ inches long, and then drop them into the where the push rods go, click them inside, and then lift up on the lifters. I am not sure if I can take and use a magnet. I bought some magnets that have a screw hole through the middle of them, so if I can screw them into the rods and then just click them on and then lift up. Maybe I'm going to give that a try and see how that works. And then once I lift all of these lifters up, then I can pull the camshaft out of the front here, and then I can actually get the housing off, and then I can replace the gasket and try to put that all back together today. I'm waiting for the tools to show up so I can push the new sleeve, a wear sleeve on the end of the crankshaft here. I also have a tool for setting the bearing. So, I mean not the bearing, setting the seal on the end of the crankshaft. I'll see if I can get a close up here of how worn this groove is on this. There we go. That is the worn groove in the end of the crankshaft. This truck has about 310,000 miles on it, I think. So sliding a new sleeve on there will help prevent it from leaking when I put the new seal in. Okay, now it's time to pull this gear off here. I took the nut off with an impact wrench. These bolts here that I'm using are actually, I was trying to find some with the right thread, and these are actually from a bark busters for a dirt bike. The hand guards. This is the bolt that goes in the end, but it's what I've got that is actually the right thread for this thing. So it's what I will use. Oh, that was easy. Friction fit. Okay, next step is removing the nuts on the backside that hold the injection pump on. This one's really easy, it's right here. This one's a bit of a pain. You have to get your hand through here, get the 3-inch socket, the 3-inch extension, get it from the back, and then you have to get your ratchet up through the bottom here. On the bottom here, I don't know, it might be easier than this one on the back here, but yeah, that's the next step. Alright, so I need to turn the engine over just enough so that I can access these bolts and unscrew them. I made this little tool to see if it works. Basically just put it inside either one of these and see if it'll rotate. I don't think the bolts are quite long enough. Yeah, I need a little bit more length on these. See what I got. Alright, we'll give this a go here. I found some other longer 1/2-inch bolts, so stick Took that through just far enough to grab. And try to rotate the engine. That's enough. I can access these now. So loosen those up and I can pull the camshaft out after I mark the gears here so that I know how to index it when it goes back together. In case you want to do this as well, the distance between these two bolts on this pry bar is 3 inches. Okay, now we're going to make some dowels to hold the lifters up, so that we can pull the camshaft out and not worry about the lifters dropping into the engine. So what we're going to do is take 12 1/4. I'm going to cut this off here. Then we're going to take and hit this down in the sander. Basically what you want to do is get the end of this thing about 7/16. And I've got a really short taper here. Like this is a couple of millimeters maybe. So once we get this done, we can take it and drop it in the hole for the lifter and jam it in. So we'll do that now. So here we go. This is one of the lifter holes here. I've already got one in there. This is the other one. We'll drop it in. Hunt around for that. There we go. You can feel it drop in. And then push that down in there. You can pick up on it. Oh, that pulled out a little bit. So let's see here. I think I need to sand that down just a little bit more of a taper there. I don't think I gave it enough of a taper, so it didn't stay as well as I wanted. But basically what's going to happen is, where is it? Find the hole. There we go. Once it's in, you'll be able to pick up, and you want to be able to tug on it just enough without it coming loose. Oh, that one actually stuck in better that time. That might be good enough. So you'll pull both of them up, and then you put a rubber band around them, and that will hold both of the lifters up. You can see it. Oh, yeah, it pulled out that time. Let's try this one. I'll do it from the side here. You can see it. You can feel the lifter stuck on the bottom. So this one I need to grind down. Alright, we got the first 2 in, so make 10 more. Okay, now we want to wipe these things down good, get all the sawdust out. And then go ahead and stick them in the lifters and lift them all up. Okay, a couple things to note here before you get started putting these in. You'll notice the holes way in the back there are way back under the cowling. You see the lifters are still in there, right? Where is it? Right over here. They're way back under the cowling. On this, the insulation was hanging so low I had to cut it back. You can see it through here. And also to give me access to the plugs that are in the panel here that you have to pull out. And since I didn't do that ahead of time, because I forgot before I took the valve cover off, I need to put the valve cover back on, just set it in place. And then remove there's a plastic plug right here I need to take out, and I think there's another one right back here that needs to come out as well so that I can have access. Where is it? I can have access to these back here and actually pull the lifters up. So I'm going to drop the dowels. These are 1/2-inch dowels, by the way. I'm going to drop them in, as many of them as I can here. Put the valve cover back on. Actually, maybe I'll do the valve cover first and then pull those plugs out. And then go ahead and see how many of these dowels I can get in there. Alright, I got all the lifters out except for that last one in the very back there. And I thought I would show you how these back ones come out. Try not to shake the camera too much. I know that really annoys me when I'm watching videos, but so the two in the back right here come up through this hole and go behind the windshield wiper here. That's how they come out. The ones in the very back here, there's another hole that you can't really see. This here. It's back here. And these lift up into that hole, and then the bottom comes out the side like that, and that's how they come out. So these sticks that you put in to get these out go in the same way. Also, I have everything laid out in this box here, front to rear, and then the rods are front to rear, so I can just pick them up and put them back in. I know what the order they go in. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get a video of this or not. It's kind of hard. I have all the dowels put in now. They're attached to the lifters. So I need to lift these up and rubber band them all. And I've got this stack of rubber bands. I'll try to keep out of the way of the camera and see if I can get this in there. So I'll start with the front ones here. See if I pick up just high enough. There we go, there's one. Now that I've got the lifters all pulled up and held with the rubber bands, it's time to pull the camshaft out, and this cross member, the radiator support, has to come out. The only problem is that it was put in when the two sides of the truck were put together, and so it's wedged in. It's wedged in this block here. It's wedged in this block here. So in order to get it out, I can either cut it here, or I can cut this section out here so I can pull this straight out, which I think is what I'm going to do. So I need to get this out of the way, and then I'm going to take my grinder and I'm going to cut this section out here. I'm going to cut this section out here. I'm going to take these bolts out, and I can take this cross member out so that I can get the camshaft out. Real pain in the ass. There we go. Got this bottle of filler primer here, so I'll go ahead and hit it with that real quick. Now if I pull these two bolts out, the camshaft should come right out. I want to make sure I mark the gears, so I remember where they line up. Alright. Well, Change gloves here, keep my camshaft clean. 13 it is. Oh, it's really easy to break loose. Oh, let's see if the camshaft will come out. Wow. There you have it. There's the camshaft. Alright, finally. Now that we got that thing out, I can pull these star screws out, unbolt the pan, unhook the injection pump, and then I should be able to get this cover off of here finally. I'm debating whether or not to replace this seal because it'll be really hard to do later on if it starts leaking. I'll have to order that, so I won't be able to do that today either. But at least the hard part's done. So there's some little metal studs in here that this has to fit on, so I have to pull it straight off. And this is where it was leaking right here. It's got oil right on this side here. Boom. There we have it. So it looks like when I put this back together, the oil pan gasket came off with the housing, so I'll have to use a bit of silicone on there. So the only way to replace that gasket is to pull the engine out. I really don't feel like doing that now. So I will use really thick gasket sealer on this surface here. Okay, so this is like week 3 or week 4 of working on this thing. I sent the gear cover out to be hot tanked, so it's really clean now. I scraped up the bottom here. I cleaned the mating surface on the engine, so I'm pretty much ready to throw some gasket sealer on here and install everything back on the truck. I've got this gasket sealer here, the ultra gray, and the gasket for this particular truck for the back side. It's this Cummins part number. So I am going to put some of this ultra gray on the back here. I'm going to stick this gasket on here. I'm going to apply some more ultra gray to the back side of the gasket, and then I'm going to put some of this on the oil pan because the oil pan has such a small amount of clearance between it and the frame that I can't get the oil pan off. So I'm going to jam this stuff in there and cross my fingers and hope that it doesn't leak out from the oil pan. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get this all gooped up and we'll start again. Gotta apologize here, I started putting this thing back together, forgot to start the camera. I basically put the gasket on the back side of this thing and I started tightening, or I haven't started tightening it up yet, but I got it all gooped up. Got the gasket on there, got the cam sensor back on, got the injection pump back on. So now I am going to go and put these Torx nuts back in here, and there's 2 on the bottom here. I can't remember if I mentioned, I put this pipe in here to basically make sure that the lifters don't fall into the engine while I have the camshaft out. So far we're good. I checked it this morning. None of the lifters have fallen, so I believe I'm good to put the camshaft back in now. Clean all the old oil off of these and apply some new oil and slide it back in. Alright, one more bearing journal in. Line these gear marks up. Make sure you get the cam clamp lined up here. Just like that, we're back in. Sweet. Going a little bit easier than I expected. I had marked these here so they're lined up. Critical. We'll be hitting this with a wrench though. Alright, next I'm going to install this wear sleeve. I have some of this Loctite 545 thread sealer. It's not a thread lock, it's a sealer, and I'm just going to apply some to the inside of the steel, and I have a tool. Alright, I have this tool to install it. You can buy it from, I think it was Freedom Racing, it's like $100. And then here's the wear seal. This tapered side, I believe, side you used to start it with, and then this lines up like this, and you just tighten the bolts on it and it'll push it all the way on, and it's recessed just the right amount. So I'm going to go ahead and install just a smidge of this on the inside. Go ahead and smear that with a nice thin coat. Should be good. This tool, if you're interested, part number is ST191. There we go. It's on and perfectly recessed. Okay, next I'm cleaning all this gasket mess off of here. Okay, so I got the new seal here. It's got the plastic installation tool, or not tool, but plastic cap. I have this tool here. I got this from Freedom Racing as well. And this sits inside the seal. And then you drive the seal in from the back. Nice and snug. And this will drive all the way up until it's actually until it's all the way in. So let's see here. I believe they say to install this dry, but I am going to apply some thread sealer to this as well. There we go. Perfectly seated. Alright, I got the cover all gooped up here. I've got the install sleeve put on here. So I just line it all up and slide it on. Okay, and putting this cover back on, there's two kinds of bolts, a long and a short. Basically, if you look at the hole and you can see the threads, it takes a short. If you can't see the threads, it takes a long. I'd recommend you start them all before you tighten any down completely. I'm using the stubby wrench here to keep from over tightening them. Alright guys, that's a wrap for this one. I gotta apologize, my camera died when I was putting the truck back together, and most of the rest of the assembly of the bodywork and stuff didn't get captured, so I feel like the most important stuff got recorded, and taking apart the engine, getting the lifters to stay up, or the push rods, or no, the lifters, getting the lifters to stay up, getting the camshaft out, and everything else. I feel like that's all in there. So if you have any questions, if there's stuff that's missing, this basically took like 30 hours worth of work and condensed it into 30 minutes. I know there's a lot that's not in there. Hopefully there's enough that if you are contemplating doing it, you can use it for information. It's not a how-to, but it'll get you started and fill in some information gaps that I had trouble finding when I was looking to do the job. So
If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching.